Today, we're diving into a reflection from the Bible diary. We'll be looking at Genesis chapter 1, verses 9 through 13. So, we're zoning in on the third day of creation. And let me tell you, this passage is absolutely packed with meaning. It's not just some ancient story about how the world was made, it's really about who the God is that made it. It's all about his character. It all kicks off with this incredibly powerful command. Just try to picture it for a second. A world that's nothing but water, everywhere, a global ocean. And then with just a single word, God draws a line in the sand, or, well, in the water, I guess. He creates a boundary. And out of all that formless chaos, something totally new appears. Dry land. This is such a foundational moment, you know? Okay, so here's where things get really interesting. We're talking about a text that's thousands of years old, right? But you'll see it has these strange echoes of ideas we think of as super modern. I mean, think about it. The text says the water was gathered into one place, which allowed a single dry ground to appear. Doesn't that sound kind of familiar? It lines up surprisingly well with our modern geological theory of a supercontinent, like Pangaea. It's a really fascinating parallel. But it also makes you stop and ask a pretty important question. Are we just seeing what we want to see? Are we reading our modern world back into this ancient text? Or is there something deeper, an original message that we might be completely missing? And that right there, that's the key. If we really want to get what this passage is about, we've got to try and step outside our own heads. We need to look past our modern scientific questions and try to hear this story the way its very first audience would have. You see, our first instinct, our modern brain immediately asks, okay, but how did this actually happen? What are the mechanics? But the original author and the people hearing this story for the first time, likely the Israelites wandering in the desert, they weren't asking that at all. Their question was much more fundamental. They were asking, what is God trying to tell us about himself? What is he communicating about our world through this story? It's a totally different starting point. And this really brings us to a core challenge whenever we read an ancient text, right? It's a question straight from our source material. How can we, when we read the Bible, just let it speak for itself, without constantly trying to squeeze it into our modern-day boxes first? If we can keep that question front and center, I think we can unlock the first really powerful message of this passage. So, what was that first message? Well, for the original listeners, it would have been crystal clear. It's this: God is the one who brings order out of chaos. He tames it. You have to remember, back in the ancient world, the sea wasn't a place for a beach vacation. It was a symbol of pure chaos. It was unpredictable, unbelievably powerful, and frankly, dangerous. So when God separates the land from the water, he's not just, doing a bit of divine landscaping. No, this is a huge deal. He's carving out a safe, stable, and defined space where life can actually exist and flourish. He's setting boundaries against the chaos. And to really grasp how powerful this image was, you have to think about figures like the Leviathan. This wasn't just some fairy tale creature. In the cultures all around ancient Israel, the Leviathan was the ultimate sea monster. It was the living embodiment of the terrifying, chaotic power of the deep. The untamed waters, that was its turf. And this is where the biblical story just completely flips the script. See, in a lot of other ancient creation myths from that time, you have these epic, violent battles, gods fighting sea monsters to bring about order. But in Genesis, nothing. There is no battle. God simply speaks and the waters obey. It's an incredible statement. He shows his absolute sovereign authority over all that chaos with just a word. But creating a safe space is really just the first step, isn't it? I mean, what good is an orderly world if there's no life in it? So right after taming the chaos, God immediately fills this new land with provision. And in doing so, he reveals another core piece of his character. Now, pay close attention here, because there's a phrase that gets repeated over and over again in the text, according to their kinds. This is so much more than just poetic language. It's actually a profound promise. You've got to put yourself in their shoes. For an agricultural people like the ancient Israelites, their very survival depended on the harvest being reliable. The fact that a barley seed always grows barley and not, say, thistles, or that a grapevine always produces grapes and not poison berries, that wasn't just a neat fact of biology. It was everything. It was a sign of a faithful, orderly creator. If seeds were unpredictable, it would literally mean starvation. So this repetition, according to their kind, was God's way of saying, I've built reliability into the very fabric of my creation. You can count on it, which means you can count on me. So let's bring this all together. What does this ancient story with its divine borders and faithful seeds really mean for us today? Well, when you put these two powerful ideas together, you get this timeless picture of who God is. If you can just for a moment strip away all the modern scientific debates we get hung up on, what you're left with is this beautiful and powerful portrait of God. This is a God who steps right into the middle of chaos and creates safe, defined spaces for life to even begin. And then, he doesn't just stop there. He fills that space with reliable, predictable provision. At its heart, it's a story about a trustworthy God, one who builds the fundamental laws of order and sustenance right into the fabric of creation, the very things necessary for any life to exist at all. For more details and to explore the sources, you'll find the link to the original German blog post in the description. If you're interested in more Bible reflections, feel free to subscribe to the channel.